Welcome to the Wasting Time podcast. This is episode 27. I am one of your hosts, Chris, and I'm here with Nick. How's it going, Nick?
It's good. Episode 27.
I think it's episode 27, which, I mean, it depends how you want to look at that. Like, given that we started this podcast in 2015, that's not such a high number. But if you look at how frequently we were doing, or infrequently we were doing the podcast before you joined, it's quite amazing that we've got up to number 27 so quickly. Yeah. So, yeah,
with lots of cool guests as well.
Yeah, mate. We've had, obviously, historically, we've had cool guests, but recently it's been some really good ones. I mean, I'm sure many people would agree. How's things been with you? Been up to much recently?
Yeah, not much on a music sense. Just been super busy with work. So yeah, I did get into the Dollyrots stuff though, which we were sent in advance from. Do you want to? Do you know what? Do you want to just we'll hold it off on that just for a minute? There was a couple of bits of news and new releases recently that I just wanted to run by you and see if you've heard them. Oh, okay.
If you
probably not, but yeah, go for
Okay.
it.
One thing was I saw a lot of people on the internet talking about Motion City Soundtrack coming back to play some shows. Thoughts on that?
Well, the lead singer did some. Was it Slam Dunk, right? He did a acoustic thing.
Yeah,
I didn't see him, but yeah.
You a fan of theirs?
I mean, I dipped in and out over the years, but I wouldn't call myself a devoted fan to Motion City Soundtrack.
Right.
But give it a listen. I wouldn't be dismissive of anything new they bring out, but yeah. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I like a couple of songs here and there, but I was never huge into them. To be honest, I didn't even know that they'd gone away. I mean, that's how much they're on my personal radar. But I know they're a big band for a lot of people in our scene. So it's always cool to see a band come back and play some shows when they haven't for a while.
Well, and I guess that's where things are at the moment, aren't they? There's a hell of a lot of bands from our kind of era in those kind of early 2000s, early 90s, kind of coming back and having their resurgence at the moment, which is good to see.
So there was I saw Blink-182 put out some more new music since that Blame It On My Youth, which was a bit different for them. They recently put out Generational Divide. Did you get a chance to listen to that? And if so, thoughts?
I did, mate, and I fucking love it.
I did, really?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, what's not to love? I mean, that's the Blink-182 you kind of want to hear, right?
Yeah, it's cool. Do you like the dual vocals going on that as well?
Yeah, I love it.
That is an affirmative.
I love it all. Yeah, it's kind of what I've been crying out for.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So does that get you a bit more excited for the new album then?
I think so. Yeah. It's definitely spurred something on. So, we'll see what they've got to give, I guess.
Yeah, cool. Another thing that came out this week was Sleeping With Sirens have a new album coming out in September. They've released a single. Do you get a chance to listen to that?
No, I'll put my hands up here. They're not. It's not something I ever would listen to, but I know we've got some. I don't know. Did we say it or not?
Yeah, we've announced it on social media, so it's no secret.
So I know we've got him on, and I know that probably we're both guilty of not really listening to much, but I know you've been listening to a bit of Sleeping Sirens since finding out. Yeah. We've got Kellen on, and you've actually got on board with some of that stuff, right?
Yeah, man. This new single as well. It's the right balance of post-hardcore, super heavy with a nice poppy hook on the chorus. Takes a couple of listens, but it's well worth it. I've as I put out on our social media, I've had it on repeat this week, and the production's great. Previous guest of ours, Zach Savini, worked on that, and yeah, I think it gets me really excited for the album. I see Benji Madden's on one of the songs. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah, 2 thumbs up from me for sure. Speaking of Zach Savini, I have been listening to. Do you remember he was talking about that artist Poppy that he works with?
Oh right, yeah.
I've been listening to some of her stuff, and she's put out a single called Choke recently, but a couple of weeks ago she put out one with that heavy band Fever 333, and
yeah.
It's called Scary Mask. Check it out like after this podcast, and we can talk about it on the next one because it's I quite like it. It's crazy. It's you just have to hear it to it's hard for me to convey how ridiculous it is, but I'm quite
ridiculous. Like, you're not filling me with positive.
Yeah. Ridiculous isn't always a bad thing, but
okay.
you'll know what I mean when you listen to it.
All right. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, there was another thing I wanted to mention. I noticed this today. Jack Barakat from All Time Low's got some new like pop project, like him and some other guy.
Right.
And I checked out the song. So they're called Who Hurt You. Song is called Wish We Never Met, and I think it's a really good pop song. So I'd recommend checking that out as well.
Okay.
In between this, be curious to hear your thoughts on that. But yeah, you mentioned Dollyrots earlier, so we're hoping to talk to them later in the summer, and their press team kindly sent us an advance of their album that's out next month. Firstly, were you a fan of this band before? Had you listened to them much at all? What was your
not really, no. I mean, the odd song here and there. I knew of them. I heard a couple of bits and pieces. Knew they were kind of starting to kind of break onto the scene a little bit, but not really giving them the time of day.
Okay.
So yeah, I listened to the record in full, and it's a lot poppier than what I was expecting, to be honest with you.
It is very poppy.
It's incredibly poppy, but I think they've got some really, really strong songs on there. My issue with it is it's what, like 15, 16 tracks long, and I feel like they could have just condensed it down to like 9 or 10 and had a really strong record start to finish, rather than this kind of really long, a long record where where some tracks aren't quite as on point. So, but very listenable. There's 2 or 3 that really stood out for me.
Yeah,
I enjoyed.
My favourite one was that song. What's it called? Cat's Meow. Like, it's a very straightforward pop punk song, like with a riff you feel you've heard before, but it's so catchy. And like that was the one that just went. I had it on repeat when I first listened to the album, and what was it? So there's already a couple of singles that they've released from it. Everything, which I think is a really good sort of pop punk love song.
Yeah,
great chorus.
Yeah, it was a standout for me, that one. Yeah, but I just think it doesn't really need to be. It's too long. It's a really long record that could have been condensed into some.
Yeah, and there was kind of like almost like a jazzy minor chord sounding one where, credit to them, they're trying to do something a bit different, but it just, for me, just completely didn't work,
Yeah.
Like when they're just doing the pop punk or the pop rock super catchy melodies, that's when they're
really shine through.
Best.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, because their last album from 2017, what's it called? Whiplash Splash or something. Yeah, Whiplash Splash. I really, really like. But it's not a disappointment, and like the standout songs like really make it worth it. I think No Princess was another one I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah. Cool.
So like it would have been awkward if we hated it and we had them on, but fortunately that's not the case. So like
it'd be good to see what they do and see how that goes for them. But yeah, very definitely enjoyed a lot of that record. So good luck to those guys, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know they've been slogging it out for years, and they're married and they take their kids on the road. So
really,
they put in the work.
That sounds interesting. I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really interesting, guest slot for us.
Really. Mate, yeah. Particularly if we have them both on, it'll be really interesting to hear the ins and outs about that for sure. So cool. Look out for that one. Is there anything else you want to discuss, or should we get into today's guest?
I think let's just get into it. And I know you're a big fan of this guy and
sure.
and his band, so I'll let you kind of segue into it.
Yeah, so we have Max Collins, who's most well known for being the frontman of Eve Six, who are a band. I feel like I first got into them in about 2000, like because they were along with like the Good Charlottes and the Lits of this world. So they sort of came up playing with those bands, and they had success before that because as you'll find out from listening to him, and they've kind of been active off and on throughout the last decade or so. But Max Collins is an amazing songwriter. He has Eve Six is still active, but he does another band called Fitness, who we'll link in the show notes, who are well worth checking out. And he was kind enough to give us quite a lot of his time, and it was a really enjoyable chat. So here it is. I just want to say that we have been joined by Mr. Max Collins, all the way from the States. How's it going, Max? This is Chris speaking.
Hi, Chris. Yeah, it's going well. It's going well. I just finished up like a pretty long tour, like a 7-week tour, and then had a one-off show that I got back from yesterday in Virginia Beach. So I'm just kind of I'm here for a couple of weeks, and yeah, exactly.
So it was the Songs and Stories tour, right? It was.
Yeah, exactly.
How was that?
It was awesome. I grew up with, it was a tour. It was a solo acoustic tour with myself, Chris Collingwood from Fountains of Wayne, Art Alexakis from Everclear, John Wozniak from Marcy Playground, and my band, like we were super young when our first record came out, so those guys and their songs in particular, Art and Chris were like huge influences of mine, and so it was kind of surreal. I mean, like Fountains of Wayne is literally maybe my favorite band of all time.
Right.
So
yeah.
I had to kind of check my fanboyness a little bit, but Chris is such an incredible songwriter, and of course they're known primarily for Stacy's Mom, which is kind of tragic, even though I think it's a great little pop song. But
yeah. Well, I remember like my first introduction to them was like, what were the songs they had back in the day? Well, I don't know what stage in their career this is, but I remember like Leave the Biker and Sink to the Bottom. I remember that record. That's
the record. Yeah, that was their first record, and they had a hit off that record with Radiation Vibe. That was like that was like a pretty big song. But yeah, Leave the Biker. He hates that. Chris, that's a Chris song. He wrote it, but he hates it. He can't stand that song. But we would sort of peer pressure him into playing it, and there's a pretty great story that he told on stage about a release party for it. So this is after Radiation Vibe. So they'd had some success. They were on Atlantic. They were going to dump a bunch of money into Leave the Biker, which I guess was going to be the second single. And they did a release party at this bar. That's the bar that they based Coyote Ugly on. It's not called Coyote Ugly. It's not that bar, but it's somewhere in Jersey. I think it's called like Hogs and Heifers or something like that.
Right.
And so they did this release party there. Every artist from Atlantic is there. Jewel was there. I love that Jewel was there. When you hear the rest of the story, it's fantastic that Jewel was there.
Okay.
And so they had the owner of the bar is there. He's got like Lamborghinis and stuff, and he's posing for pictures with I'm trying to remember how Chris put it, like artificially enhanced bimbos, like, and so Fountains of Wayne does their performance, and then they're loading their gear out, and the owner of the bar is getting filleted on the stage.
Jesus, wow!
And then he died. He had like a massive coronary or like an overdose or something like that. So he's dead. And
sorry, I don't know why I'm laughing, man.
Yeah, he's dead. And yeah, that was the release party for Leave the Biker.
Right.
Wow. So did he tell that story on stage every night of this tour, or did you only manage to get out of him a couple of times? Because
yeah, we got him to say it. We got him to tell it every time he played the song, which was probably, he maybe did it like, we would do the encore of the show was a Q&A thing where people could ask for requests, and he had a hard time denying people who were like, please play Leave the Biker. I mean, it's such a brilliant song. I mean, he thinks it's like too much of a joke or something, but to me it's like, it's just as sad as it is funny, or maybe more sad than it is funny.
It's morbidly funny, right?
Yeah. Well, no, the song itself I'm talking about, though.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that it's like that with like a lot of Chris's stuff, that kind of presents as like a humorous thing, but if you go a little deeper, it's heartbreaking. That song is definitely a case of that.
Yeah. No, it's been so many years since I've listened to it. I've just got the chorus going around in my head now. He's got his arm around every man's dream. Yeah.
I mean, that crumbs in his beard from the seafood special. It's so good.
Leave the biker, break his heart.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're saying you just came off this tour, and so where is it you live?
I live in LA.
Okay, are you LA born and bred?
I was born in New York City, moved to Miami, Florida, or Coconut Grove, Florida, pretty much the same thing, when I was 4.
Right. Yeah.
And then we moved out here when I was 11, so like right before the 6th grade.
Okay.
And so I grew up out here, you know, I feel like, this is home.
So where did you kind of, is that where you start getting into music?
Well,
how did that come about?
I started getting, when I was like, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9, I still remember it so vividly. I was in my dad's Pontiac Parisienne station wagon, and which would become my first car, and years later, but Running Down a Dream by Tom Petty came on the radio, and I just remember feeling like, what is this magic? Like, you know, as a kid, I was just like, I was transported, and that began an obsession for me that never really abated. Like, it's all my allowance money or whatever I could, pittance I could scrape together from like chores or whatever, I would like save up for records, and cassettes.
Yeah.
And
yes, go on.
Yeah, so my first, that I was obsessed with that record. I was obsessed with the B-52s record with Rome on it.
Right. And
then I was obsessed with a lot of just awful shit too, like Skid Row's first record. But that began my obsession for music, I guess, as like a fan, and just I had this curiosity about it. And then it wasn't until I was, I guess, 13 that I got a bass guitar from like a family friend who was getting rid of it or something. that's when I started to play. So my like attendant obsession was skateboarding. And then when I picked up the bass and started doing that, that's when all my time went to that. I would just, not that I became like a great bass player, but it was like a way to, you know.
Were you aware that you kind of had a decent singing voice at that point as well?
No, I I like the way you put that too. It's kind of the way I put it.
Okay.
I started to like jam with friends and do little pretend bands and stuff. And I remember the guy who was like the singer of our little band in, I guess it would have been like freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
He was like doing something, and I suggested he sing it a little bit differently, and I heard myself kind of sing the suggestion. I was like, oh, I kind of just did what was in my head, huh? And then I started to kind of sing along to records, and wrote my first song. I think I was probably like 16 years old, and it was called Mildred, and it was about a girl who was overweight, and she was trying to like conform, and she's trying to, she's taking Dexatrim and trying to fit in, and then she has this epiphany, like, fuck it, like it was actually kind of ahead of its time.
Okay.
And it was, it was a terrible song, but it was a song. And then, yeah, I guess that was sort of the, opening for, I could kind of do this too. And yeah, I think I have kind of an obsessive nature, and when I get into something or feel like I have any maybe aptitude for something that I also enjoy, that quickly becomes a primary thing for me. So
at the time you wrote this song at the sort of age of 16, what kind of music were you listening to at that point? Had like the being into skating influence, like getting into skate punk or anything like that, or was it more sort of? Yeah,
skateboarding. So I went to skateboarding camp in Visalia between, what would it have been, like maybe between 7th and 8th grade. So I'm like maybe 13 or something like that. And up until that point, I remember I was listening to like Pearl Jam. I was listening to, sort of the obvious stuff. And there I got turned on to the two Deads, the not the bad the Dead, but the good Deads, the Dead Milkmen and the Dead Kennedys.
Oh yeah.
And I became obsessed with the Dead Kennedys, in particular, Give Me Convenience or Give Me Death, that record. And that's what opened me up to, music that flew under the commercial radar, like, and just the subculture of punk that I found so fascinating and appealing. And so, by the time I was like, 15, 16, it was all punk. It was all punk rock.
Okay.
And I think that sort of, I feel like people now don't identify as much with a particular genre, and maybe that's probably a good thing. Like, people kind of listen to everything. But back at that time in like the mid 90s, it was like you pick your tribe, and I was like, okay, these are my people. I can relate to this, and so I became it was all punk rock, and then it would sort of diverge a little bit. Like, I would shop by record labels, and as I, at first it was like a lot of, it was Bad Religion. They were huge for me. Kerplunk, when that came out, because a friend of mine went and saw Green Day open for Bad Religion and came back with a Kerplunk record.
Yeah.
And as I started to, get a little bit more versed, I started to like sort of listen to some Kill Rock Stars stuff and K Record stuff, and found a band called the Mises, who were huge for me, from San Francisco, and they were a little bit more I mean, they still had a punk kind of attitude, and they were sloppy, but they were also songs. Like they were.
What did you say they were called? Sorry.
The Mises, Meices.
Okay.
And the record was Greatest Bible Stories Ever Told, and it's so good. So I started to, I think, sort of gravitate toward bands that had that attitude and that sense of abandon and freedom and everything that I loved about punk, but also could write a tune. And the Mises were one of those. Screeching Weasel, Screeching Weasel I'd probably call my favorite punk rock band of all time. And
right, okay.
the My Brain Hurts record, because listening to those, I mean, obviously he has his voice, it's an aptly named band, but like if you take those songs onto acoustic guitar, they're interesting. They move you. They're good melodically, and lyrically he has such a wry, kind of like wit and spit and spite about him. And I've actually become, I've still never met him, but he and I have become online pals. We're both really into cigars, and I was supposed to get together with him on this last tour in Madison, but I was so just tuckered on my day off that I ended up just kind of resting. But
it didn't work out. So is he a fan of the music you've made over the years then as well?
It's funny. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine that he would be, but he says he is.
Right.
I've definitely plagiarized from him. There's a song called "Kathy's on the Roof Again" on how to make enemies and irritate people, and there's an Eve Six song called "On the Roof Again" where I'm, completely taking what's interesting about that title and stealing it. But okay. We were so young when we made those records that I feel like I kind of couldn't help but do that a little bit. I was just learning how it all works, and maybe I'm offering myself excuses. I don't.
I don't. From what I understand, I don't think that's unusual, particularly for a young musician. So what at what point did you kind of get together Eve Six I know it wasn't Eve Six originally, but was that around this time that you're talking about when you're 15, 16?
Yeah, it was. So I would have been 16, right? Yeah, sophomore in high school. John, or Sweet Pea as we call him, would have been 15, but we were in the same grade. I was just a year older than him. And
right.
Yeah, we were, the first incarnation of us was called Yaku. And Mildred would have been a Yaku song. And we had a guy named Kyle Briggs who was in do you guys remember the Hippos?
Yeah, they I remember them doing some Drive-Thru, put them on a demo, but I remember them being around in the late 90s and stuff. Yeah, they were like a punk ska thing. He had been in the Hippos. We found him. We put an ad in this thing called the Recycler, and it was like looking for a drummer kind of thing. He answered that, and we started to play around with him, and just all ages places, coffee shops. There was a place called Eagles Coffee Pub in North Hollywood that did all ages shows, and we would, we'd make a bunch of flyers, and we'd do like a show or two a month there, and just, we're in high school at the time, so we're just like passing flyers out all through the school, and we'd just like pack the place. I'm trying to remember why Kyle left, but at some point in there, Kyle bailed, and we got a different drummer named Nick Myers. We were still called Yaku, I think. No, we changed our name. I think, when we got Nick to 11-teen, and and we started playing around, or continued playing around. We did a show at a place called the Natural Fudge Company, which I know it was an all-ages venue in Hollywood. I don't remember where in Hollywood it was, and it definitely doesn't exist anymore. But we did a show there, and there was someone from a label called Dr. Dream out of Orange County that was like
the label where kind of like all the guys from like Steve Soda from the Adolescents new band was on Dr. Dream. Joe Wood from TSOL's new band was on Dr. Dream. They had a band called the Grabbers who were fucking awesome, actually. And this woman was like, you know, you guys are good. You should come check out the label and meet people. So we did. We ended up signing a deal with them and starting to make a record that Steve Soto of the Adolescents was producing, and like actually started tracking drums. And while we were doing those sessions, the label had coordinated a radio interview performance thing with this show called Radio Asylum, run by a woman named Jennifer Harold. She came to the Dr. Dream studios where we were tracking. We did a little interview with her in a live performance, and she kind of just dug us and sent the live recording to Brian Malouf at RCA, who she'd known. And he and God, what's the other guy's name? Bruce Floor flew out to see a showcase, and I remember us just being so bad. Like, I remember Nick was dropping his sticks, and we were just a mess.
Was this like in a rehearsal room or something?
Yeah, exactly. It was in a rehearsal room in North Hollywood.
Yeah.
And but I remember I was like, oh, this is kind of a big deal. Like, these guys are coming out to see us play. I remember being nervous. I remember they were like 45 minutes late, and I was like, oh fuck, they're not going to come. Then they came, we played. I thought we sucked, but they saw something, and they ended up offering us a deal. So we were, I guess by this point, we're juniors in high school, and we end up signing a deal with RCA. It was.
And how does that work then in terms of, you know, I guess we've had a few guests on that have been in kind of their late teens and still in school and signing deals. How does that work over there in terms of like those commitments? Be at that age, you know, still kind of doing what you're doing kind of in an education.
Yeah, well, they said they wanted us to finish high school, you know, and it sort of sounds like they were being more benevolent than they were. I think they saw some maybe kind of, you know, that we might turn into something interesting, but, you know, they didn't know that, and they wanted to see what would happen and to have us, you know, if we did get good. So, I mean, it was a record deal. It wasn't a production deal, but in practice it was.
They almost just wanted to kind of commit you to the label whilst you know, kind of you were growing and developing and getting through school.
Exactly. Cool. So that's what we did. So our lives didn't change. I mean, I guess that, you know, we got like an advance that, you know, I think was pretty modest. Probably wouldn't be modest now, but for the time it was. So we had like these monthly stipends. We would get checks every month, and we could use the deal as like work. What was it, like work credit or work permit? So we got to leave school early because we had a record deal. That was pretty tight. And we just kept playing around and writing and rehearsing every day. And at some point there, I think, we're seniors in high school now. Nick Myers, our drummer, starts to sort of get cold feet about like doing a band full time, and I think maybe feeling like, you know, he was a little bit of an odd fit for us. He was a couple grades older than we were. He had already graduated. He wasn't into punk at all. I mean, he would kind of play along, but his bedroom was lined with like Rush album covers, and you know, he was like a drummer's drummer and wanted to like, you know, kind of, you know, wank off.
You want to play rock music and
and we were like, no, just play fast and simple, and he was like, kind of resented that. But So he left the band, and we started to audition a couple people, and we auditioned this guy Rocco, who was in a band called 1000 Mona Lisas, and another guy who'd been in another punk band, and they were good, but they were, Sweet Pea and I were 16 and 17 at the time, and these guys were like in their late 20s or something, and to us that was
yeah, super old.
So
to you at that time.
Yeah, Jennifer Harold, who was now managing us, the Radio Asylum woman who'd hooked us up with Brian Malouf, was now our manager. She knew Don was, and knew that his kid played drums. She had just interviewed Don for something, so she, got his info, and we auditioned Tony Fagenson, and, he was like, I remember he came in like pleated shorts and like a Letterman's jacket and like frosted hair and stuff, and I was like, oh God, this ain't gonna work. And then he played, and he was really good, and I was like, oh, we can change him. We can mold him. We can give him good records to listen to, and and that's how that came about. And he was a great drummer, and that was the original lineup of the band, or Eve 6.
So when did EU6 actually become EU6 then?
Oh, right, yeah. So when we were recording so now we're rehearsing, we're gigging with Tony. We have a bunch of songs. We had Inside Out at this time.
Okay.
And Brian Malouf came to a rehearsal and listened to it, and then took us out to Musso and Frank's on Hollywood Boulevard, that I think just closed. It was like this, old school place, been there forever. And he was like, yeah, I don't hear it, guys. Like, I don't see this working with anything that's going on now. I just see you guys falling through the cracks. I remember just being crestfallen. And he's like,
I was just going to say, that must have been crushing to hear, particularly.
It was crushing. It was crushing. Yeah, like just abject, just rejection,
Yeah.
But he was like, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of money to get these songs off your chest, which was like the ultimate, like they suck, but record them so you can move on. And so he gave us a tiny budget. There was a record by a band called the Cunninghams that this guy Don Gilmore had produced, and we thought it sounded great. And so we got in touch with him and had him come down, and Tony's dad had a studio at the time called Chomsky, so we didn't have to pay for that, so we could give Don a little bit of money. And we recorded like 4 songs. One of them was Inside Out. One of them was Showerhead. I forget what the others were. Brian Malouf flew out, heard it, and was like, oh, huh. Like, I remember him saying, he said something like, it sounds like you threw the kitchen sink into this one or something. I remember thinking, I don't know what that means. But, like, is that praise or, like friend or foe? But he was like, he liked what he heard and gave us more money to finish the record, and we did. We made a record. Did some of it in Seattle at a place called Stepping Stone. Did drums at Sound City out here, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. And turned it in, and it was the head of radio promotion at the label at the time, a guy named Ron Poor, who heard Inside Out and was like, I can get this song to number 1, which is the way those guys think. But you're kind of glad they think that way, because, they attach their name and their ego to something, and then they want to realize it.
I guess.
And he did.
So you kind of credit Inside Out then to the real kind of that step up, I guess, really.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was the song.
Did you know when you wrote it that was gonna be that track? Or
it's so funny, man. I remember after writing that song, and I wrote the chorus. I forget. I think I wrote the chorus first, and it had a different verse or something like that. And then, I don't remember exactly in where in the process, it happened or where I said this to Sweet Pea. But I remember in the morning before school, after having written a section of the song, or maybe found the two parts that work together, verse and chorus, I was like, man, I wrote this song that I feel like it could get played on the radio. I remember telling him that.
So obviously you said when you first did some stuff with Don Gilmore, and that song was one of them. Did he kind of like grab it and just like change it around a little bit? You know what producers do, obviously.
Yeah,
Presumably it was your first time working with.
Yeah, Don, was a huge part of that record, because I mean we were so green, and like Inside Out had like 9 verses or something like that. I remember him being like, okay, like we're gonna chop all this stuff out. And Don had a way of being like, critical and sort of pushing, definitely would push me and say like that could be better, or that needs to change. But for some reason, like that didn't freak me out. That didn't stop. It made me want to like get in there and see if I could make it better, as opposed to it being like it didn't scare me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean, just I guess more for our listeners, kind of. Really, I mean, who had Don Gilmore kind of worked with at that point already that you were aware of? Because that must have been quite a big deal for you, knowing some of the artists he's worked with, to go and work with someone of that.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because he hadn't produced anything of note. We were his first hit record as a producer. He had engineered Pearl Jam 10, and he'd engineered an Alice in Chains record, I think. So he'd done some definitely pretty amazing engineering work, but yeah, his role was really, especially with the song like Inside Out, it was like, okay, you're taking all that shit out. We're gonna do 3 times through. He was all about threes, like of the verse in Inside Out, and we're gonna go to like honestly, I think the thing that is most interesting about Inside Out, like musically, is the chord change before the chorus, and like that's just not something that I would have been capable of doing at the time. That was a Don thing. Yeah, and so it was trimming all the fat. That chord change was definitely Don. The arrangement starting with the guitar and the vocal, that's sort of the way we had it. But there wasn't a bridge or an outro in the song, and so I think we did have the chords. I think the chords were the same. I don't totally remember, but I remember we recorded the song and we had. The outro where I'm singing the chorus over new chords, and then there was that palm muted section with no bridge. And he was like, "Okay, go write. There needs to be a lyric in this part. Go write a lyric for it."
Okay.
And I did. And yeah, that's sort of the way that one happened.
But I guess you were pretty important to the start of his kind of production, work as a producer then, really. And
we were his first hit record.
Some pretty big things after that as well, right?
Yeah, he did. He went on to do the big Linkin Park record. I think he did 2 Linkin Park records.
Yeah.
And those were, I mean, after that, it was just like, he was just the biggest producer of the time.
Everyone wanted a piece of him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you wrapped up that record with Don then, and was it pretty much straight on the road? Were you out on tour straight after that, or?
Yeah, so we went into the studio like the summer after we graduated high school, so maybe like August or something like that.
Yeah.
And
you all graduated successfully. That's a good.
Oh man, my mom actually had to like implore my guidance counselor to pass me. I mean, I had up until the record deal done okay in school, and then I just, I had all the arrogance of a 17-year-old first off, and then a 17-year-old with a record deal. I was like, oh, fuck this shit.
17-year-old punk rocker with a record deal.
Yeah. So I just kind of stopped going to school, but they did pass me. I mean, I got a dismal grade point average, but they passed me. Tony had already graduated. He was going to USC at the time. He would drop out shortly after we started touring.
So I guess from there, you're raring to go on the road, right? You're raring to go on tour.
Yeah. I think it was in the spring that we started touring, and
who was the first tour
in a van? It was just us, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, we were just going around, and the song was starting to climb the chart on the radio, but it was like a really slow climb. But at the time, there wasn't like big guitar rock on alternative radio. It was really skewed like Lilith Fair, Sarah McLachlan type stuff. Like that was kind of the sound of alternative radio at the time. That, and then there was like, some like, some DJ stuff. It was like sort of more electronic, and we had this kind of, unabashed like rock song thing. And so it was just, I think, kind of a hard sell, but it climbed, slowly but surely climbed the chart, and we just toured. I think we probably did like 4-6 months or something like that in the van, and then the song started to crack, and
right.
It was like, oh, guys, like this is a hit song, like it's like working. We started, and then we got the tour, Third Eye Blind tour, the Bonfire tour. So yeah,
just after they released their first album as well, was it?
Yeah, well, so I'm trying to remember when I remember that their record came out in what, like, was it like 96 or 97?
97, I think. 97.
97, yeah.
Self-titled, yeah.
Yeah, so they were an arena band at this point. I mean, they had like 5 hits off that record, and we were fans of the record too. So it was like we were like, yeah, hell yes.
So a dream come true.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, yeah, we ended up doing like 6 months with them, because we did one like 3-month tour, and then it went straight into the MTV Campus Invasion tour, which was also our 2 bands. So we were out with them for a long time.
Oh, okay. So did you get on with them well? Interesting reaction.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's a strange bird, but
yeah.
I mean, yeah. I always found him kind of entertaining, like, but there was no connection really. But it's also sort of like, how could there be? Like, I mean, he was like 34, I think.
Was he that old by then already?
Yeah, he was 34 when that record broke. So, wow. And we're like 18 and 19. So, we were kids, and no, they were definitely, I mean, they were good to us, and I mean, it was a huge opportunity for us. It just wasn't like we were bros or anything.
Yeah, sure. You just took it for what it was. So, yeah, no, I was just curious about that, because he definitely seems like, well, how you describe him, I just wondered if he was back in those days, but it sounds like that's always kind of been his vibe, I guess.
Yeah, and there is like an aspect to that kind of thing. Like, I don't know how much of it is real or how much of it is
Sure.
affected, but it is fun to watch, not
Right.
to like equate him to like a Gallagher or something, but he had a little bit of that thing going on. And there was a good moment when we were in Birmingham, Alabama, and I had gotten really drunk, and I think it was Halloween or close to Halloween, and there was a huge thing of candy on the front desk of the hotel we were staying at, and I just kind of picked it up and started walking away with it to my room, and they're like, sir, you can't take that candy, please bring it back. And I said, I can do whatever I want, I'm Stephen Jenkins from Third Eye Blind.
Yeah.
And so they called his room and woke him up, called his tour manager, and then the next day we do our show. I walk off stage like right after getting back into our dressing room. A big, burly, good old boy, cop walks into the dressing room, and he's like, Max Collins? I said, yeah. He's like, you're under arrest for blah, 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 blah.
Stealing candy.
And, cuffed me and, walked me backstage, like, on the way, like, toward the back of the venue. And when we got to the area behind the stage, all of the band and crew were there. And he gave me like a hearty slap on the back and was like, I'm just fucking with you. And it was like,
okay.
I was like, well played.
Yeah. That's pretty fun.
Even then, it sounds like a grey area, because that sounds like complimentary candy. If I'm honest, you've got it right.
Yeah, right. Thank you. I mean, like, we're really going to split hairs about amounts here. I mean, complimentary candy should be complimentary.
Exactly.
So what other big tours did you do in this period, sort of in the years after this first album in the late 90s? Was there any others that stood out apart from these big Third Eye Blind ones?
Right. Oh yeah, the Somersault Festival is a Canadian festival that Our Lady Peace put on. The headliner was Smashing Pumpkins, I think. Well, it was like Smashing Pumpkins, A Perfect Circle, Our Lady Peace, Sum 41. Who else? But yeah, those were the big ones. That was probably the biggest tour. It was basically a festival tour, like a few weeks long.
What was that experience like?
It was really fun. Yeah, I remember that being a good time. And then the funniest one we did was Bon Jovi. That would have for the second record store. We got offered that.
How did you end up getting offered that? Where was the who's making that happen?
I don't know. I mean, probably like a manager or agent who's like, is there a younger,
trying to make Bon Jovi look cooler, basically.
Yeah, it's a funny idea that like get Eve 6 on, but that'll make them cooler. But we did that, and that was just sort of, I mean, we kind of said yes as a joke. I mean, it even though it had been, like as a kid I fucking loved Bon Jovi, but the shows were terrible for the most part. It was just like we were like walk on music for Bon Jovi. Their fans couldn't care less.
Yeah.
But there were some good moments too. We did Giant Stadium, and that was pretty epic.
Cool. And you did tours with Lit and Good Charlotte, right?
Yeah, we did.
Was that the same tour?
That must have been after your next record, because presumably, certainly Good Charlotte wouldn't have been a thing. Because Horoscope was 2000. Was Horoscope 2000? Horoscope
was 2000. Yeah, and we took Good Charlotte out on Horoscope, and we took Lit out
that makes sense.
On the first record. Don Gilmore. Don Gilmore's second. The record he produced after us was the Lit record, A Place in the Sun.
Oh, okay.
and then he also produced that first Good Charlotte record. So that was all like in the family,
which both blew up pretty big, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, well, just want to ask you a little bit about Horoscope. Like, so presumably, so that was with Don Gilmore again, right?
Yes.
Is that right? And did you have more, like, there was more funding going into that one? And
oh yeah,
yeah.
So that would have been 2000, and we'd had a hit record, you know. I mean, so we got, you know, I mean, there was no doubt in our minds we wanted to use Don again. We loved him.
Yeah.
And we did that record at a place called NRG, which was kind of his studio at the time. And went in with a lot less material because we'd been touring for 18 months. And, you know, whereas with the first one, we'd had like 3 years or whatever, however long we'd been a band to come up with stuff. So we went in with a lot less, but there was a lot more writing in the studio. And Promise, the first single, was actually was an older song.
Okay.
Oh, was it? Okay.
It's one of my favourite songs, actually. Yeah. So that was actually written long before you went in.
That was actually written.
Really well, I think.
Oh, thanks, guys. That was written.
Yeah, sure.
I think before the first record. The first record came out. I think it was after after it had been recorded. But yeah, I remember that I was like at a friend's house, or a friend of mine was house sitting. Oh yeah, a friend of mine would house sit for Will Wheaton. Do you guys remember him? The Star Trek guy, the Star Trek actor.
I
can't say I do. I'm just going to Google him now.
Yeah, Google him. Yeah.
Star Trek.
And we were there, and
I reckon.
Yeah. He was from La Crescenta, which was the little town we lived in. My friend would house sit there. We were there. We were like drinking beer, and I remember I don't know what got me all. I remember getting sort of pissed off, and I left. I don't remember why. I walked home, which was far and up a steep hill. Probably would have taken me like 45 minutes to get home.
Yeah.
Got home, went into my bedroom, and wrote that song, and with another fucking 4 verses or something. I remember that being another one that Don was like, clip, you know. Yeah. But and a slightly different chorus lyric, and it didn't have the chord changes in the chorus where it goes to the F sharp and all that stuff. It was like all just A, D, E, D the whole time.
Okay.
But yeah, that was the first single, and it came out and was competing with all of the, you know, testosterone rock stuff that was on the radio at that time. So now we're, instead of being up against like Jewel and Sarah McLachlan, it's Papa Roach and Kid Rock and stuff. So
how did it perform? How did it get on against those songs?
It performed well outside of the context of coming off a #1 crossover smash.
Right.
But using that reference point, it was a stiff. I mean, it was like a top 5 alternative song, but we could have put out anything probably, and it would have gone top 5. It didn't stay there very long.
Yeah.
So, and then we put out, what was the second single? I think it was On the Roof Again.
Oh, was that the next single from that? Okay.
I think it was it. I remember there was another single that also didn't work, and then the label was like, "Okay, well, we're gonna put Here's to the Night out to pop. Like, we're not even gonna go to alternative radio.
Which
we're gonna go to pop radio.
Yeah, because it can get away as just a straightforward pop song for sure.
Oh yeah, no, totally. It wouldn't have gotten And that's what they did, and we made that video for it that kind of served up this you know, neat little coming of age narrative that could, you know, graduation song thing, and it became it worked.
Yeah,
it was like a big pop song and video, and I think the video kind of led the charge because it was like, it's like #1 TRL and all that stuff.
Yeah, of course.
And the radio kind of followed suit, and so that was a really strange time because we went from being this rock band doing rock festivals and stuff to doing shows with like the Baha Men and Jessica Simpson,
Yeah. So when you were making that album, were you kind of, because obviously a song like "Here's to the Night" is can be taken as a straight up pop song. Were you like consciously thinking we want some songs that are just going to be completely radio friendly, and a lot of the pop rock songs are just all major chord progressions and stuff, like more so than the first album? Was this deliberate thing?
I think I was probably moved by Third Eye Blind a little bit, just being so, we were out with them for like half a year, and and I was 18, 19 years old, and like, so just what I was around got in. And I remember I wrote the melodies and chords to that song in Little Rock while on that tour, with just like noise, like just gibberish, lyric. Actually, I remember what they were. It was all in the same wide comfort stare. Means nothing, but that was to the melody of "Here's to the Nights We Felt Alive." All in the same wide comfort, and wrote the lyrics later. And yeah, the production on that record was just all Don. I mean, I didn't. Yeah. No, it's funny. Like it started so early for us that it sort of started, like our career started before I had a comprehension of sounds and how you make a record sound a certain way, any of that stuff. I almost didn't care, which sounds crazy, but in hindsight, like if I made those records today, they'd sound nothing like. Well, I mean, the songs would be different too, but
I suppose you were doing what was just coming naturally to you,
yeah.
And that's where it all starts essentially, and it's the likes of Don who actually refine that and kind of send you in different directions and kind of pull things in.
Exactly.
And that's their job, right? That's what they're there to do.
Yeah, exactly. And he did a good job of it, of taking our very unrefined kind of thing and making it palatable.
I mean, even to this day, there's a couple of songs on that album, like where the bridge middle eight are like some of my favorite bridges / middle eights in sort of pop rock music, like particularly the song Nocturnal. You know that track? Just when that riff comes in off the second chorus. I to this day.
Honestly, I'd have to listen to it again. I don't even remember what that. I do remember that song was with 11 Teen. We had a song of the same name. Oh yeah. And I think there were parts of that song that were kind of re-upped for. But yeah, that's funny. I'd have to listen to it again.
Yeah, go back and have a listen when you get a moment.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you've done a ton of touring over the years, but you didn't actually get over to the UK, right? Not that we're aware of, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, we did once or twice. Yeah, there was a convergence of sort of factors that kept us, I mean, unfortunately, and in hindsight, foolishly, from doing more overseas. Part of it was we just had this huge success here, and we felt like we should be playing here. Yeah. And the label was sort of disorganized over there. Okay. But we did do one tour. We played, what's the club, like 99 something, or
Club 100?
Do you mean the 100?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the 100 Club.
On Oxford Street.
Yeah.
Oh, what did you play? You headline your own show there?
Yeah, we did our own show there. We did We did like a 3-week European, UK and European run. And
when was
that would have been in 98, I think. 98, 99.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like, I mean, I came to you guys when I turned 18 in the year 2000, and that was like the time I heard you, so it makes sense.
So was there much going on? I mean, you say that, you know, Labour a bit disorganised internationally for you. Was that a bit disappointing in terms of a tour for you, or was there a...
Yeah, it was a little bit. I mean, it was...
No one really knew about you over here.
No one knew about us. Yeah, we're playing to like not many people. Actually, I remember the 100 Club show being pretty good, but yeah, you know, it was a hard sell for us being young, now successful, entitled. You know, it's like, why are we doing this?
You've had your success over there, and like you say, I mean, your success internationally kind of almost bears on, you know, the people you work with. I guess we had Vinny Caruana on the podcast from Movie Life a few weeks ago, and they have a massive following over here. But you know, that is almost a product of the relationships of the people who look after them. You know,
completely right.
You know, and you know, that's something I guess.
Yeah, and then we had another tour booked in Europe, and this was toward the end of, I mean, we'd been out for like 17, 18 months, toward the end of the first record. And I was, at this point, really drinking a lot and really kind of suffering some mental issues that, and I kind of just collapsed over. I mean, I was just like, I can't do this. And we ended up canceling like a 3-week or month-long tour, which I think really kind of sealed our fate. Came home, took a little bit of time off. Do I have this right? I'm trying to remember. It's hard to remember. I think we had like another month in the States, and I got a call from my manager, and he was like, you know, you're drinking way too much, and here's the deal, like you either finish this tour without drinking, or you're coming home. which was kind of incredible. I mean, he passed away a few years ago. His name was Stu Sobel, and man, he
Did you have a pretty close relationship? Did you have a pretty close relationship kind of before this?
Yeah, I think there was he had kind of a paternal feeling for us a little bit, and I mean, just to say that, I mean, that's like was leaving a bunch of money for him on the table, you know, and I mean, I didn't even like hesitate. I was like, well, fucking, I'm coming home, you know, like, so, and there were a couple things where he really kind of saved our, you know, or did the right thing rather, when it would have been more advantageous to him to do something else. And another example of that was with selling our publishing. Like, after we'd had, you know, this huge hit song, and we're getting like these crazy offers for publishing deals, and he was like, don't do it, don't take it, like keep your publishing, you'll be glad you did. And you know, he would have commissioned that.
Right.
So yeah, pretty remarkable for a manager, both of those calls.
Cool.
So yeah.
So what happened from that point then? You took a bit of time off. Is that when your kind of hiatus kind of started, or did you just take some time and you were back at it for a little while?
Yeah, I mean, I like saw a counselor, went to some meetings, had no desire to like stop drinking, so I didn't, and and we got back in, made Horoscope, did that tour, came home, made It's All in Your Head, wrote It's All in Your Head, made it, which took us a while, but
because that was like
recorded
the end of 03.
Yeah, exactly. We were making bad decisions at that point, and just took way too long. Ended up having like 4 different A-list guys mix it, like just blew money. And then that's what, like, the record did. It sold like 250,000 copies, which for the time and the, what the previous 2 records had done was a failure. And the label, Clive Davis had moved in at RCA, and they just like ran the numbers like, oh, these guys spent X obscene amount of money on this record, and it only sold this, and we got dropped.
And the hiatus came from there, was it? Or?
Yeah, I think we continued to do some touring, but at that point, I mean, I was pretty checked out. I'd been pretty checked out for a bit. I just was kind of
really
not super well, and so I guess we called it quits after that tour, maybe like 04 or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got sober in 06, so the band, I think we started playing out again in like 08 or something, with a different guitar player.
Yeah. So what were you doing with yourself in those intervening years? Were you still like working in music on some level, or were you doing other stuff?
Yeah, I did a couple things. Me and the drummer, the now ex-drummer of Eve 6, did like a little thing that was bad, and when I got sober, in 06, I really just focused on that. I just really focused on that. I wasn't writing a lot. I wasn't, and the band started to play out again a little bit with a new guitar player, a guy named Matt Bear, who's now Matthew Coma. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he's he's the voice of, he wrote Clarity by Zed. He sang, he wrote and sang a bunch of like huge Zed and Tiesto songs and stuff. He ended up having these unlikely this success in the dance world. And now he's doing a band called Winnetka Bowling League, which is great. But all
right, okay.
Yeah. But it was kind of a creative just purgatory for me. Like I didn't really write in that time, and the stuff I did write was awful. And it wasn't until Sweet Pea came back into the fold in 2012, and we decided, all right, let's do another record. We got Don Gilmore on board, and we made Speak in Code. And it was sort of during that process, that writing process, working with Don again and stuff, that I started to kind of find my voice again a little bit. Just like my writing voice, and like and Sweet Pea too being back in. I think like I just sort of lost a sense of self or something. And so we made that record and toured it, and the single was called Victoria. It shouldn't have been the single. I think the song called Curtains should have been the single.
Curtains has got a bit more depth to it, I would say.
Victoria was awful. I mean, like it's an awful song, and it's an awful video. At least the way the song, like the song could be good if it was done in a totally different way, but like this sort of weird, I don't know. So at that point in the band, there was a lot of creative friction between myself and the drummer, really.
Okay.
So a lot of butting heads, and but there were these sort of fixed roles within the band that were hard to kind of contend with, and so yeah, he ended up leaving the band not until I guess recently, a couple years ago. But the band at this point is really, we are talking about we want to do actually like a 5-song punk covers EP with maybe one new song on it.
Oh, nice.
And
okay, cool.
so we are talking about doing that, but it's more of a live entity at the moment.
What kind of live covers are we talking, or can you not tell us?
Oh no, sorry. I mean, the songs wouldn't be recorded live. I'm just saying, Eve 6 right now is active really as a live band more than it is a record making thing. But yeah, I don't know. But we've thrown a couple of ideas out. I mean, I'd love to do a Screeching Weasel song. Right. I'd love to do a Kink song. Right. So I guess punk is maybe like a loose term here.
Yeah, didn't you already do a Kink song one time?
Oh God, yeah, for that movie. yeah, The New Guy, right?
That's it. Yeah,
I think the movie was called The New Guy. Oh man, yeah, that was rough. But yeah, I don't know. So I'm doing a new band called Fitness, and that's where my kind of energy is going creatively. It's with myself and Kenny. Yeah. Excuse me, Karkeet, who was in AWOL Nation until. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, because I listened to the EP when you put it out, and then been listening to the full length more recently when I knew I was going to be talking to you. Because like, I really like the song. You put it on the full length as well. What's it called? It's like.
Oh, Get Dead.
No. What's another song that's on the EP that's on the full length? It's one that would definitely be a single if you were putting one out. I'm got this up.
Is it Matter of Time?
Yes.
Matter of Time, the guitar vocal song. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Because I heard that on the EP, loved it, and then the record's really cool, man. It's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, we're just gonna say we have another one coming out in I think August. We're gonna be putting out a song. I forget what the date was, like July 27th or something. A song called Yellow Jackets that we're really pumped about. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think we're gonna have what we were thinking. It was just gonna be an EP, but we already have a ton of songs, so probably another full length. But that's been really fun.
Nice, cool. So what kind of stuff were you doing on this Songs and Stories tour then? Was it kind of just a mixture of Eve 6? I guess, do you do kind of your own kind of acoustic solo stuff that you're writing as well?
It was all Eve 6 except for Matter of Time. I did Matter of Time too.
Okay.
Just because it lends itself so well to that. And and I came out and we did like 5 or 6 covers together. So each guy would pick a cover, and then all of the other guys would accompany. And my first cover choice was Ace of Base, All That She Wants, and which was we had some good banter around that. But I actually think that I love that song. It's so strange and good.
It's not as good as The Sign, but that's just
yeah. Well, we're just gonna have to agree to disagree.
Yeah, man.
But we did a Warren Zevon song, Gorilla. We did a Barry Maguire song, Eve of Destruction. I guess he didn't write it, but he made it famous. We did You Don't Know How It Feels by Tom Petty. We did an REM song that I can't remember the title of now. And we did Dead Flowers by the Stones. So that was really fun. And then I came up with Chris for Radiation Vibe. And it was really cool. It was like I said, I got to be out with guys who I've been fans of since I was a kid, and and still am. So it was cool.
So what else are you doing kind of outside of music these days? I obviously kind of been dipping in and out over the last few years. Is there anything else you into these days?
well, just parenting. That's a big one. I have two little girls, nice. An almost 6-year-old and a 2.5-year-old.
Oh, nice.
And
keep you pretty busy, right?
Yeah, dude. Do you guys have kids?
We don't, no. But I guess with the podcast at the moment, we're going through. We're interviewing a lot of kind of guys from your era, from our era, in kind of punk rock, and we're speaking to a lot of guys who are kind of settling down with children, talking about how much their lives have changed over the years, and moved on from those.
It's pretty extreme. Yeah. The funny thing is when you go out on tour and it feels like relaxation. It's like, oh, I can sleep in, Yeah. But no, it's great. I mean, other than that, it's really, my life is, there's the Eve 6 compartment, the fitness compartment, the dad compartment, and that's pretty much it.
That's a nice setup.
I do like some writing, I'll do outside writing stuff when opportunities come along, and so I do some of that. But those are the main trifecta.
Cool. So what would be your advice to your kids if they wanted to get into music when they grow up?
Oh man, Art had a great answer to that question when it would come up in the Q&A. He'd be like, do something else unless you have to do this. And if you have to do this, don't give up. And I think that's pretty solid. I don't know. I don't think I definitely wouldn't discourage artistry of any kind. I would just tell them, for me, I think I could have used a mentor. In a sense, Don was that, but it was different. I could have used like a creative mentor, and someone to just remind me, to keep my sense of a sort of a true north, and
someone who'd be what's important. I guess someone who'd been on your journey. Well, not your journey, but on a similar journey to you. Obviously, don't very much in the production world, but
exactly right. Yeah. So I think that's what I would tell them, because it's so easy to get to start just prioritizing badly, and to me, like, to wanting to avoid confrontation, and therefore stifling a part of yourself, and stuff like that, sort of like probably age-old predictable things, but I think that's what I would try to impart to them.
Well, listen, Max, we don't want to take too much more of your time, because this has been going over an hour now, and we just want to thank you so much for it. So I guess we'll try and wrap this up in a second, if that's cool with you.
I really appreciate it.
We'll let you get back to being Dad Collins instead of Punk Rock Collins.
All right.
Nick, should we just give the quick fire thing a shot just before we wrap this up?
Yeah, we can go for it. So what we've been doing with some of our guests is just a bit of a quick fire section towards the end. Just a couple of questions, answer as quickly as possible. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, cool. We'll cut it out. We'll cut it out if it doesn't work. But
all right,
Nick,
cool.
Max, if you're game, Nick, I'll let you start this one.
Bear in mind, Chris made this whole complete list, so it's got nothing.
Okay.
Okay. So the first question is acoustic or electric?
Electric.
Solo or band?
Band.
We got East Coast or West Coast? I think we know the answer.
West Coast. Come on, West Coast.
Lit or Good Charlotte?
Ooh, damn! You guys are good. You good. Wow, that's hilarious. I can't wait to tell this. That's gonna be. I can't wait to tell a couple folks about that question. Lit.
Okay. Cool. We've got self-titled or horoscope.
Self-titled, because for all of its like glaring blemishes, it was really a pure thing. It was done before there was any, I don't know, any ulterior factors had moved in, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a lovely answer, but it's not very quick fire.
Oh, right, quickfire shit.
Yeah. It's good answer. It's good answer. Favorite movie?
Oh, The Big Lebowski. Although I'm tempted to say I saw this movie called Old Boy the other day.
Oh wow! What the original Korean one,
the
or
remake.
the American one? What was
The
that
remake.
like? I've seen the Korean one, but I haven't seen the remake.
Okay,
Is it good?
Fucking intense. I'm not gonna. I wouldn't put that as. It's just been in my mind since I've seen it. But yeah, I'd have to go with The Big Lebowski. I've probably seen it, I don't know, 300 times. We just have it on repeat on the
I
bus.
think me and Chris have watched it like at least 100 times together. No.
Yeah.
And we don't even.
We live in
different cities.
That's
We live in
fantastic.
different cities, so yeah, good answer. Go on.
We got favorite type of food.
Vietnamese. Pho. That's like my comfort food.
Good shout. Love it. Favorite TV show?
The Wire.
Nice. Yeah, like that. And Chris has left the toughest one to last. Well, maybe it's not so tough. It's Eve 6 or fitness.
Oh man, that's fitness. I mean, I'm so whenever I'm asked what my favorite song of mine or whatever, I can't help but say the last thing that I finished. And and it's so you always hear other artists say that too, and you're like, oh, give me a fucking break. You really think that shitty record you just made is better than blah blah blah? But that's you're talking to a songwriter.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. I guess we can just finish this off. Max, thanks so much, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you, particularly having listened to you for all these years as well.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it, man. This was fun.
Nice one.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cheers, Max. You take care. So that was Max Collins of Eve 6. Good chat there, Chris.
Yeah, loved it. Some really cool stories. He sounded like a really nice bloke as well. So just that's just exactly what you want from one of these. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, nice one.
Just want to thank him again for it.
Cool. Okay, well, next up, we're going a bit left field with our next guest. We've got Jason Tate on. Maybe not a known name to a lot of you, but Jason Tate is the founder and creator of absolutepunk.net. Is that right, Chris?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and currently looks after Chorus FM, which is a webzine website for, I guess, the alternative music.
Yeah,
punk
it's
rock.
a huge part of our scene. He's been a huge part of our scene for a long time.
So both me and Chris have followed Absolute Punk in the 2000s, and that was our kind of source for music news and punk rock news and tours and gigs and record reviews. So we're really looking forward to getting him on and kind of scratching the surface around, get his insight on what it's like to work in that world. I guess we will get into that next time. But in the meantime, give us a follow, a like, subscribe, across all our platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you're following the podcasts on our streaming platforms, on Spotify, on Podbean, on iTunes. Thanks again for listening, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.